If you are looking to upgrade your closet for that last-minute holiday gift, check out Circle Rock Menswear at CircleRock.com today. Use the code ZONE25 today and receive a $25 gift card good for your next Circle Rock purchase. Again, that's CircleRock.com and use promo code ZONE25.
The Zone Coverage Podcast Network.
They may be drinkers, Robin, but they're also human beings.
Hell yeah, let's get stinko.
This is the Giles and the Goalie podcast as part of the Zone Coverage Podcast Network. With your hosts, Giles Farrell and Ben Remington.
Welcome, Giles and the Goalie podcast. We're back. The two amigos, the Bash Brothers. I am your host, Giles Farrell. That across the desk is Ben Remington.
Hello.
And we are back this week after Ben was off last week. And to lead the show, Ben, I have a mutual grinding of the gears. No riffs on anything that people might get mad at.
You don't want to complain about MnDOT right now?
No,
Oh.
I want
You
to
sure?
complain about our homes.
Yes.
As I mentioned last week, Ben was not a part of the show. Well, you would have gathered that because I had literally talked by myself for an hour. Ben not with us because he had a home emergency, which I don't think I ever actually enlightened on. He had a pipe in the basement burst.
Yeah.
And then we were supposed to record Monday night, but then my water heater decided to not work, which it's really lovely when you're expecting hot water and you get nothing but freezing water. So trying to fix that. I did get it fixed finally, but probably have somebody take a look at it because it took forever to ignite.
Like you fixed it yourself?
Yeah.
What would you do?
Just kept pushing the igniter.
Oh, the pilot went out. Gotcha.
Yeah.
You made it sound like it was an actual problem.
Well, it was. Like, I was talking to relatives, thinking it was, had me look at other things and whatever, but
Sure.
it was a much more simple problem than...
Yeah, that's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take your situation over mine any day.
Right. Mine doesn't involve, insurance companies getting involved, ripping out carpet and sofas and the like. And
Yeah.
The grinding of the gears this week is when your home doesn't work as intended.
It's really something you take for granted. Like, it's impossible not to, and because it's your house and you paid a lot of freaking money for it. But yeah, it's as anybody who's been through any kind of issue with their home like this, it is not a lot of fun. And luckily, as far as damages go, it just to relieve everybody, it wasn't as bad as it could have been for sure. We have a basement living room that's rather large with an adjacent bathroom and closet, and down the hall is an office and our laundry room. And the living room and basement got pretty soaked. Carpet was saturated all the way through. Basement had a half-inch standing water. But the office and the laundry room were mostly dry. Laundry room got a little bit of water. Office was, from what I can tell, completely dry, which is good because that's where a lot of important stuff is. But yeah, so new carpet, new sheetrock from about 3 feet down, or drywall. 3 feet down all the way around the basement, and so we're just now getting to the point where everything is done drying a week later. No joke. They just took out the dehumidifier this morning, and so now they can start to reconstruct our basement this week.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's nice.
it's nice to have
Having a basement is nice.
constructed basement.
Yeah.
Might even be able to let the cats out of the bedroom soon.
That'd be terrible to have to quarantine the cats.
Yeah, especially my cats because they're terrible cats.
Yeah. my cats would probably be as equally terrible. 'Cause
Yeah.
they love to just get into places they're not supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
yeah. Oh, by the way, if you couldn't tell by the intro, we have a new intro.
Oh yeah.
Thank you to our friend Panda Pete for doing the voiceover.
Did you not use it last week?
No.
Oh.
As he hadn't gotten the voiceover to me in time, and
Oh, that's right. He finished it. Yeah, I forgot.
he finished it
My
after,
timeline is
which
very
it was
screwed up right now.
it was fine. Like I wasn't in a rush. I just wanted to get the podcast uploaded
Sure.
for
Yep.
uploading's
Yeah.
sake, and it was like it wasn't going to go anywhere. We can just wait another week, and we did, and we hope you enjoy it. Hopefully, it's a little more upbeat for your liking. Also, lets you know what podcast you're listening to much quicker than what we had previously.
Sure.
But again, you probably already figured that by the Batman Adam West voiceover.
True.
So yeah, thank you to Panda Pete doing us a solid favor.
Mhm.
We pay him in Twitch views,
Mm-hmm.
so that was his form of compensation. For,
Yeah, look him up on Twitch.
Yeah, check out his Twitch. I don't know what his Twitch handle is. Is that how you say it? Twitch
Yeah.
handle? Twitch
account.
Twitch.
I don't know. Panda Pete 21. That's his Twitter handle. You can find it there.
Yeah, there you go. That's how I find it. All right, on to hockey relevant matters.
Well.
Unless people want to listen to us go on about drywall some more, which
It's fascinating stuff.
we could be a drywall.
I get to pick a
podcast.
new paint color for my basement. That's exciting. We're gonna go with a light gray tone before we had more of a sage color. So
I just watched the League episode the other day where they're trying to find the cinnamon color for the daughter's bedroom. And have you ever seen the League?
I'm familiar with the league. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So he's taking photos of I forget his name. He sneaks in the massage room and it's the janitor with Andre. I can't think of his name. It's I'll say Key and Peele, the Key and Peele actor.
Oh. I don't know which one it is that's on the league.
I don't know. I'm so bad with cultural references. I can't even get through a League reference without butchering.
It's okay. Our viewers love us describing TV show scenes to them, so this is what we're known for. I mean, it really is.
I did appreciate you telling me the other day you're getting back into model cars and you got the Batman Forever
I did.
McDonald's NASCAR.
I found a NASCAR model online. I'm back to building model cars. Not that I'm not writing about the wild anymore. Because it's a zen-like experience. That
Sounds like a better hobby.
Yeah, it really is. I found a Bill Elliott McDonald's race car. That it's actually a Ford Thunderbat is what it's called.
Excellent.
With the Batman Forever scheme on it. So I'm very excited to build that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Now actually to hockey. Sorry. That was
Okay.
another 2 minutes we just riffed off. But the Minnesota Wild are still playing competent hockey, which...
What?
Yeah, I just can't believe they've survived the recent wave of head coaching firings or Bruce Boudreau has. And they're, just 3 points still out of a playoff spot. We're recording this before Tuesday night's game against our beloved Golden Knights.
Oh, this isn't a Vegas Knights podcast?
But we can make it a Golden Knights podcast.
Kind of should be.
We just have to put up with Sin Bin Vegas.
No, they're great, though.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, much like we are now, we're like, third or fourth in the pecking order of Vegas podcasts. Golden Knights podcast.
Sure.
But, no, the Wild are still playing really, really competently. They had wins over Edmonton, Philadelphia this last week, and then obviously the loss on Sunday to Chicago, which, by the way, I was driving back from Kansas City on Sunday, and the snowstorm that blew through the Midwest made it a 10-hour jaunt. So I listened to the game on the radio along with most of the football on Sunday as well, which was a treat.
I didn't catch a minute of the game on Sunday. I was at the WWE TLC pay-per-view at Target Center. Why are you shaking your head?
I'm not surprised.
No, you
I'm
shouldn't
just
be
also
surprised.
jealous that you were not driving. 'Cause
that's true, yeah. I did have to drive into downtown Minneapolis. But
Yeah,
I did get to go to Runyon's.
That's good.
Yeah.
After 10 hours of driving on Sunday, because I just decided to take it upon myself that I'm going to be the driver when we're going through snow.
Such a martyr. I didn't think that would stop you dead like that. Go on.
So I took it upon myself to drive, and it's mentally challenging just to drive for a long period of time just in clear roads. But when you have to deal with snow and ice and the Missouri drivers who have
oh my God,
no idea how
they're so bad
to drive when it snows, by the 100 and some odd cars that were in an accident or in the ditch or both, it was terrible, and it's such a grind. So when it came time to get in the car and come to work on Monday morning, you're just like, why can't somebody drive me to work? I really don't want to drive this car.
There's an app for that.
I don't want to pay. I'm cheap.
I hear you.
But anyway, I really don't know why I tangented into that. But
we're tangent filled today.
Yeah. So another decent week for the Wild, although injuries still continuing to kind of play a
Jason
point.
Zucker all
Jason
of a sudden
Zucker will be
scratched
out
for the night game
Tuesday night. Yul Eriksson is on IR. While in concussion protocol, Mikko Koivu is still out on IR. Jared Spurgeon is out with a hand injury, although he's expected back really soon. But the Wild are still kind of holding ground while they deal with injuries, which I think is an encouraging sign.
They're more than holding ground. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10 games.
Right, and they are also, I had this pulled up, they are also 10-2-4 in their last 16 games, which I wanted to dive into a little bit because before this stretch, we were, I think that was right at that point, that's when we recorded the show, last place in the NHL.
Yeah.
And now
that didn't last long.
No. But at least we marked the episode name with that to
we
remember
we did.
That fine occasion.
Never forget.
Also, I'm fascinated by the reaction that comes when the Wild are on a tear like this right now. It's just weird to me because the Wild have, rattled off 10 out of 16 and points in 14 out of 16. They've pulled themselves up into the wild card race, which you want to be in at, this time of year especially. And it just seems like there's just kind of a mentality from the fan base, which I find fascinating because the Wild are doing a lot of things right during this 16-game pace that they're on right now, which isn't a really small sample size. That's a considerable chunk of the regular season. That's almost a quarter of the regular season that they've gone on a tear like this. And I wanted to highlight a couple of things that really stick out to me from the Minnesota Wild. The first of which is they are very much riding the PDO train during this time.
Oh, yeah.
Their shooting percentage, 11.14, is second in the NHL at 5-on-5 during that time, only trailing the Winnipeg Jets 11.9. So they are massively shooting the lights out right now.
Just good shooters.
And then equally in goal, they are 7th at save percentage at 5-on-5 with 93.1.
Just great goaltending.
Which they've gotten good goaltending, which, not surprising, has been in the time Capo Kakkonen's been up.
Yeah.
It's also a delicate thing to say because that references the time that really Devin Dubnyk has been away from the team, dealing with his wife's personal health issues, which, nobody needs to rush back from something like that.
No, not at all.
not to say that, Dubnyk shouldn't rush back because he was not playing well. You want him to come back when he's ready to come back. And he has rejoined the team for this Vegas game. He will be the backup. Al Stalock will start. But you just from a personal standpoint, you want him to come back when it's the right time.
Yeah.
Not, because, there are those dingleberries out there who are, when you make that much money, you should be with the team at all times.
Oh, my God. Yeah, get over it. Yeah, I think that I think you should be able to say anything, about this situation. Not like that, but say that Dubnyk should be able to do whatever he needs to do. And at the same time, acknowledge that, he was not having a great season before he left the team. And you have to imagine it's not any easier for him to correct things with what's going on in his life. And so that makes for an interesting situation with the Wild goaltending. And I know you talked about this, maybe possibly writing an article about this soon, but there isn't really a great answer right now for goaltending. I mean, Al Stalock has been incredible at home, over the last handful of games. Kaapo Kähkönen, I think, has been good. I wouldn't say he's been great, but he's been good in the starts that he's had for the most part. And Devin Dubnyk was, very much the unquestioned starter of this team going into the season. So you really don't have a good answer right now for goaltending. You're just kind of riding the hot hand with Stalock. Now, Kähkönen was sent down, I believe yesterday officially, and that kind of raises a question as to how much more playing time he'll get in the NHL now that Dubnyk is back. But he was playing well, so it's really kind of a very interesting, kind of fickle, kind of fluid at the same time situation with the goaltending.
In addition to the good goaltending the Wild got during that time, as I mentioned, their offense is, I should say not past tense yet, but it has been electric. They have scored, and I lost it. Their 41 goals at 5-on-5 is the most in the league.
Wow.
In the last 16 games.
That's wild.
Why? Why are you like this?
Why old? Why old?
Yeah. So they have been scoring a lot of goals. They obviously have been led by Eric Stahl, who has been lighting it up
Pretty
again.
Dynamite. Yep.
1,000 point on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Congrats to him. That's a huge milestone. Not just 1,000 games, but 1,000 points in the league. 9 points in the last 9 games for Stahl, including 5 goals. Kevin Fiala, again, continues to be this world beater. Error. 11 points in the last 12 games, highlighted by a 5-game point streak. Jason Zucker, who, as we mentioned, will be out Tuesday night against Vegas. 12 points in the last 14 games. Carson Soucy has been weirdly good, as our friend Tony wrote up a nice piece on him just today. And
At
then
The Athletic.
Donato, Greenway, and Cunnin are starting to come around as well. So a lot of pieces that the Wild needed to be good are all of a sudden being good, which has driven this incredible 16-game stretch. And the other thing that really is encouraging to me that I wanted to highlight was the fact that the Wild are getting a lot of chances in the high danger area. Meaning right in front of the goaltender. And again, to highlight this, because I had no idea anything until I did some research, which, shocking, I know.
It's not us.
The high danger chance for percentage for the Minnesota Wild in these 16 games is tied for first, second. They're second at 57.2%, only trailing Tampa Bay, 57.5%, which is really good.
Yeah.
Because usually, I don't know, when the Wild have stretches like that, they're just kind of getting some luck, I would say. But to see them getting into the dirty areas, getting goals a lot is a refreshing sign.
Well, and it also kind of explains that shooting percentage a little bit too, right?
Right.
Because, like, anybody
Makes it maybe a little more sustainable.
Right. You can see that, if you're getting nothing but low-dangered shots from outside that home plate area and you've got a high shooting percentage, it's like, well, that's going to regress. That's just kind of
regression.
Yeah, this is kind of the laws of hockey. But when you're shooting at a high percentage because you're in the high danger zone so often, that's something that you can kind of point to, being like, look, this is why we're shooting at such a high percentage, because we're in an area where, you're going to have higher percentages like that. So, it does. It does point to a little bit more sustainability. Not saying this team is going to shoot 11% for the entirety of the season. Right. Nobody's saying that, but just saying that maybe it's not going to crater down to 7%, overnight.
Might taper off a little bit, but if they continue to get chances like that, they're going to still score in the, at least the top half, probably top third of the league, at, just not only at 5-on-5, but at all strengths. And I don't know, maybe takes a little bit of pressure off your goaltender, which you really want to try to do. But when you're also getting good goaltending, you also don't need to have 4 or 5 goals a night just to put yourself in a spot to win. That's usually going to win you games when you're getting decent goaltending. So, there's a lot of encouraging signs for the Minnesota Wild. I know that many people out there don't want to see that. They wanted the tank to roll on, but the tank has just done a full-on reverse right into the lake. So,
yeah, I think, and I think it's very fair, and not to say people can't be positive about this team right now, because it's fun. The game is fun. Have fun watching the game. But I think a lot of people see this regressing, which it will, to an extent. And then you see this team, if this pace regresses a little bit, but they're still a winning team, you see them right around that wild card area, right?
Yeah, they're going to hang right around the wild card area.
And then they turn into cannon fodder in the first round of the playoffs. If they even make the playoffs, if they don't end up as the first team out of the wild card like they did. Well, they were more than that last year. There were a couple teams out. But so I totally get if people want to throw negativity and shade right now. Even though it is a fun time to watch Minnesota hockey, it's still, I'm not going to condemn anybody just because they're like, well, this is dumb, or this team shouldn't be winning, or whatever. Right. Because in the end, they're not going to climb into the top 3 of the division. I just don't see that happening, especially with the teams that are up there. And it just kind of plays into more of narrowly making the playoffs if you make it at all, and not a whole lot of productivity.
And I see this as more of maybe a positive from the aspect of Bill Guerin will take what he likes into the offseason and then maybe see what he can do to tinker with this roster. Kirill Kaprizov obviously will be heavily factoring into the roster next year, which, you can get a guy that can be a dynamic playmaker that is really going to be a boost. And so it's hard to say they just should lose and tank, because it's just so hard to get behind that. It's losing and tanking just never has a good end result for me, even if you get a Connor McDavid.
Well, I mean, it makes sense in that particular situation.
I guess I'm just really jarred by watching Edmonton and Buffalo flounder for so many years, and as I say
Florida,
they're
same
both
thing too.
Second in their division respectively. So it's just there's only so much tanking you can tolerate, and we've pounded this before. It's not like the NFL where being worst in the league is going to get you the top pick. There's a lottery, so. Yeah. The Wild could just miss out on the playoffs, and they could still win the lottery, and then all of your complaining will be a moot point. So I'm just saying, like, don't wish to lose. Like, I just think that's just a bad mentality.
That's fair, and that's totally fair. But I understand if fans aren't as appreciative of this winning, kind of stretch they're on right now, as maybe they should be. To your point, like at the end of the day, yeah, they should be happy this team is winning, and if they're not, that's on them. But that's kind of what they want to do, and like we've told people for years now, this team can't really tank.
No.
There's too much talent.
They can't tank.
Wrapped up on this team for too long for them to do any kind of tear down rebuild, which everyone wants. Blow it up. You can't blow it up. And by the same token, you can't tank. You're not going to be a bottom feeder, bottom 3 team with Parisi, who's not going anywhere. Suter, who's not going anywhere. Koivu, who's just now finally in the last year of his deal. Eric Stahl now wrapped up for a few years. Jared Spurgeon signed up for long term. Jason Zucker signed up for long term. You're not going to tank with that kind of talent on this team. Look at the teams that are tanking and the amount of talent. I mean, look at the dumpster fire that is the Los Angeles Kings. Do they have Anze Kopitar? Yeah. But they also have the corpse of Jonathan Quick and not really much else, along with a buttload of bad cap decisions.
The ghost of Ilya Kovalchuk.
Yeah, who they're buying out. Detroit, look at the amount of talent on Detroit's team. I mean, name an all-star from the Detroit Red Wings right now. There isn't one. And not to say the Wild have an abundance of them, but the Wild have at least a few guys who can qualify as that. So it's really, really hard to get to the level that the bottom feeder teams are going to get to. And you have to actively try to get there like Detroit has. LA maybe didn't try to get there, but they got there by force of will, by bad management. Ottawa's getting there by tightening their purse strings. You have to try to get that low in the league, and the Wild aren't trying for that. They're trying to make the playoffs. There's only a limited amount of failure you can have when you're trying to win. You can't expect to be a top 3 pick next year if you have a team that started the season thinking they can make the playoffs.
Right.
I mean, it takes really, really bad things to happen for that to happen. Like, team plane crashes or something. I don't know.
Wow. That's cryptic. All right. Before Ben completely jumps off the deep end here with his cryptic sayings, a word from our sponsors. Are you tired of freelancers and agencies or teams that are absolutely a roller coaster each and every year? Just kidding. That care more about their conference and public speaking schedule than about the work you're paying them to do? You're not quite ready for a multi-million-dollar virtual reality ad campaign. Want to work with someone who you can discuss the finer points of Paul Fenton's ineptitude with? Give friend of the podcast, Brian Reynolds, a chance. His new agency, NS Marketing, will help you find the right channel, the right message, and the right time to talk to your audience. Specializing in social media, organic and paid, SEO, and email marketing, NS Marketing can help sort out your digital marketing strategy. With over 12 years of experience helping everyone from individuals and small businesses to nonprofits and Fortune 500 companies, Brian knows what can be done and what absolutely should not be done. So if you're looking for one of us to help you with your digital marketing, go with NS Marketing, Nancy Sam Marketing. Reach out to Brian at nsmarketing.net. Tell him your opinion on soup as a meal to get a free consultation. NS Marketing, better than a broken clock. All right. Hey, speaking of Paul Fenn's ineptitude, I mentioned Kevin Fiala was really good earlier. I just found that funny. So
yeah,
I do wonder, kind of going back to the wishing for tanking thing. Like, I feel like Kevin Fiala is playing really good, and nobody's really saying anything about it. Maybe I'm just not.
I mean, I think a few people have made note of it. You got your Russos who are kind of on the ball as far as reporting how many points and how many games and all that jazz.
Right. It just, I don't know, just from like the Twitter following kind of a thing, like even just looking through like the hashtag MNWild Twitter feed, nobody really seems to talk about Kevin Fiala, and I kind of wonder more if that has something to do with the fact that he was Paul Fenton's prized acquisition and nobody really wants to give him the credit for maybe being right.
Well, yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I think that's absolutely true. But I think by the same token, it's not necessarily that they're not wanting Fenton to be right, as they still see it as a trade that wasn't good. And so I guess my point is, you can still be mad at Paul Fenton about that trade. And Kevin Fiala can be good. The two can exist at the same time. And that's kind of where I'm at. Do I think that Kevin Fiala is going to be, an NHL All-Star this year and, the game breaker that Paul Fenton? Maybe not. But he's playing well, and as our friend Tony at The Athletic has noted, he had good underlying numbers even last season when he wasn't producing much. But I still feel like that trade, giving away Granlund essentially, whether you want to call it a salary dump or not, was still not a great trade because there was just no, mitigation whatsoever there. Like there was just no diversifying any which way, and so I think that's how people need to look at it. Don't look at it as, Kevin Fiala is suddenly good, that Granlund trade was okay. Look at it as Kevin Fiala is good, and thank God, because that was the only effing thing we got back for Mikael Granlund, perennial 60-point forward, which was, still not a good trade.
Since said trade, Kevin Fiala in 48 games with the Minnesota Wild has 11 goals, 15 assists, 15 assists. That adds out to 26 points. Man, talking is hard today.
It is hard.
Since the trade to Nashville in 44 games, Mikael Granlund has, are you ready for this? 5 goals, 12 assists, 17 points.
It seems like to me, and I don't know enough about hockey to explain the finer points of it, but it seems like to me that Mikael Granlund was never and still isn't a good fit in Nashville. And I think a lot of that probably has to do with the comfort level that he had with the Wild, with that core that had been together for a long time. He spent a lot of time playing with Zach Parise, a lot of time playing with Mikko Koivu, Countryman. That kind of thing. I think that there's a lot to be said for that. And look how long it took Mikael Granlund to get off the ground here. I mean, he spent a lot of years not really producing here. And so I think it's just very possible that with Granlund's game, the way that he is good at finding space, but maybe not necessarily making his own space on the ice, that him really needing to know and be comfortable with his teammates is essential to his success.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know what, maybe that is a credit to Paul Fenton, who maybe, I really doubt that Paul Fenton had that idea in his mind when he traded Mikael Granlund that Granlund wasn't going to be a good fit there, but maybe that was the case.
Thinking about what's going on in Paul Fenton's mind is just a slippery slope.
I have so many questions about Paul Fenton. I feel like are never going to get answered.
No, never.
And that's probably fine.
So as I said earlier, 11 points in the last 12 games for Fiala, and he really has, been tearing it up offensively. If you had a gun to your head and somebody said, buy or sell Kevin Fiala, and his offensive production right now moving forward, what would you say?
Well, we talked about this early in the year, and I said, you could probably get rid of him. This was, before he was really producing, and I said you could probably get rid of him depending on what Garrett thinks of him. I think the same kind of thought still applies, and it really depends on the return for him. I'm not itching to get rid of him, and I wasn't, 2 months ago when we asked that question initially either. I'm not saying dump the guy because because he's not what Fenton touted him to be. Even though right now he kind of looks like he is. I think the same thing still applies. I don't think you're itching to get rid of him just because you're looking at it as a sell high moment. Unless you really, really, really genuinely think that he cannot possibly replicate this for the rest of his career. And then, maybe you could look into selling high. But I'm not itching to deal him at all. I think he's worth holding on to.
I guess I more meant kind of like not in the essence of like trade, more of a, are you buying what you're seeing from him, or are you still like, sell? Kind of like the Around the Horn segment, buy or sell.
I'm buying it because he's playing well, but, he's also not at like a, 100-point pace or anything like that, right? Like, is this pace that he's on sustainable? Probably not. Probably not. But, it's not like he's racking up 3 points a game for the entire stretch. Like I think that you can buy it safely and say, well, this is probably as good as he's going to be for small stretches of time, and maybe he ends up being kind of a 60-point-a-year player, and that's okay, and that replaces Granlund rather nicely for younger and less money. So I think you can feel safe in buying where he's at right now, and just knowing that you could do much worse than what he's doing.
I'm pretty sure I noted this last week on my solo podcast, where I think what you're seeing is Bruce Boudreau has finally figured out how to push his buttons.
Maybe.
And has pushed the right buttons and now is getting great production out of them.
Sure.
And so I'm of the buying camp as well of his offensive production, as long as Bruce Boudreau is the head coach. So, kind of an asterisk maybe with that. But as long as Bruce is behind the bench, I think you're going to see Fiala, get most out of his talents, which Bruce is insanely good at doing.
Yeah.
Bruce literally, it's like an orange, just squeezes everything he can out of it with the roster. And I think that's also what you're seeing just with the team in general, is he's getting the absolute most out of this team right now, which, credit to him, maybe should set him up for maybe some type of contract extension talk, maybe, hopefully.
I think they wait until the end of the season before that happens. I just feel like that's
such a lame thing to do. I don't like the lame duck coach. I don't like that hanging over the coach's head, even though I don't really think that's affected Bruce at all this year. It just, at some point, it just creeps in the back of your head, like, what's going to happen?
I don't think the lame duck title or whatever label applies to Bruce. Even if he is technically, by definition, a lame duck. I think lame duck coaches are ones that don't have a lot of clout, and the players can see the forest for the trees and can kind of see, this guy's on his way out. Like, this guy doesn't have a contract for next year. I don't think he's going to be here because he's not, it's a respect thing. I think Bruce has garnered so much respect, rightfully so, that I don't think being a lame duck coach hurts him in the room. Or anywhere for that matter. So I'm not as worried about it. And I do think that they wait until after the season. I think that Guerin very much would want to see how this shakes out before he commits to Bruce long term. I mean, you also got to consider Bruce's age, too. He might not want to coach anymore. He's in his mid-60s. I mean, there's plenty of coaches that step aside at that age, and nobody should bat an eye at it.
Speaking of being worried, Matt Dumba has been not great this year after a wonderful 2018-19 season that was woefully cut short.
Yeah.
In just 34 games this season, Matt Dumba has 3 goals and 6 assists, which is far short of his 12 goals, 10 assists in 32 games last season, before a pectoral injury ended his season. And just recently, in the last, Actually, I think it was it Saturday or Sunday? One of those nights. Dumba was demoted to the third pair because of his inept play recently, and he even noted it after the game. Just talked about how he's never really had a stretch like this where he's struggled, and I think this is a concern. Amazingly, the Wild have worked around this. Could you imagine the type of offense they'd be putting up if Matt Dumba was even halfway close to his level from last year?
Right.
And so it is a concern moving forward, but I think at some point it is going to click for him and he will get back on track. But it just, I think further, this just adds more misery to having his season last year cut short because there was such a promise of what could have been.
Mm-hmm.
You just always wonder now what could have been, what happens to his season. Does he hit 30 goals? He was on pace to do that. Something Wild defensemen don't ever do,
right.
Or even Wild forwards rarely do, is hit 30 goals. And so I don't know. What do you think of Matt Dumba in his play so far this year?
Well, it's clearly very disappointing, right? It's obviously, not anything that anybody really saw coming. So
no.
I don't know. It just seems to me like something is wrong with him. I'm not really sure what it would be. Just kind of doing a quick look up here. Matt Dumba. So I don't know. I have a theory on this, and I'm searching through it at the moment. I think he's not shooting as much, and that kind of bears out in So last year, in 32 games, 93 shots. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This year, 34 games, 75 shots. And so, not a huge number, granted, but that is like a 20-ish% reduction. And I think that, he's getting some time on the power play, maybe not as much as you'd like to see, but I just think that he's not getting set up as well for shots in the offensive zone either. And I think that, the Wild on the whole could use him better as a weapon on the point, and that's part of it. And maybe there's something to it. Maybe the recovery from injury hasn't been flawless, and it's taken him a long time to get his strength back. Maybe his shot isn't what it was last season. There's probably, I don't know if there's even ways to look that up as far as the actual hardness of his shot now, but. Once they get puck tracking involved, we can obviously see that, but I don't think they're there yet. So,
the year is 2063. Giles and the Goalie podcast is in its
bajillionth year,
52nd season.
Sure.
Still waiting for NHL puck tracking to be released.
But I think there's something wrong with Dumba. I think both personally. I think he probably put a lot of pressure on himself this season to perform like he was last season. Where last season it was just kind of a natural progression and he was headed towards a breakout season because he was good and because that was the direction that his career was headed. And then he gets hurt, misses half of a season, and so now, he sees kind of where the Wild are at. Seeing where the Wild are at puts a lot of pressure on himself to continue at the pace that he did last season. And that's a dangerous thing. And I think that's something that's not often talked about in sports is how much pressing really hurts players and how much the mental side of the game really affects the productivity side of the game. I also think that like I mentioned, there are some systematic things to it. I think that he's shooting less. And why is that? I don't think he's turning up or turning. I don't think he's turning down more shots this year than he did last year, but for whatever reason, he's shooting 20% less. And, so that's something worth looking into as well.
Yeah.
Because of those 20 shots, he scores on 2 or 3 of them, and that's doubling his goal total for the season. Still not where he was at last year, but a pretty considerable mark.
You know what else is worth looking into? CircleRock.com.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we were checking it out earlier.
We were. Actually, we were.
We were looking through some of the stuff they had on there last week. We talked about, my love of polo shirts, which they have, but also for the sports fan in your life, they have some pretty neat sports type memorabilia. You can get your Yankee Stadium cufflinks if you're a Yankees fan.
And they actually made it from the seats of the stadium,
right,
so the
like
plastic is actually
they have
embedded
Montreal
in the
form
cuff.
or the parquet floor of the Boston Garden. Pretty neat. They have some other stuff in there as well, but more or less in the clothing area, which I desperately need. Polo shirts, kind of casual pants, maybe even jackets or sweaters or whatnot. See my vest, see my vest. They have everything for you there. And at the beginning of the show, you did hear the ad. Use the promo code ZONE25 when checking out at CircleRock.com to receive a $25 gift card.
Can we do that? Does that apply to us? Do they know who we are?
Just use Raza's email.
Okay.
They do also have a shop here in the Twin Cities, House of Style in Southwest Minneapolis. If you are looking to actually try on the clothes before purchasing them, which I'm also kind of big on. So
I'm not. I just wing it. You can tell I have a lot of ill-fitting clothes.
But I just always have this fear like it's going to be not the right fit. So
yeah,
they do have folks there that can help you, friendly experts, to find the best fits for you. If you're looking for some clothing this holiday season, or just even just that last-minute gift idea for the sports fan in your life, they have you covered at CircleRock.com.
Or maybe you want to dress snazzy for a trip to Vegas.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah, that's coming up on our agenda as well. So I'm gonna have to look sharp. One of the nights we're getting our custom-made shirts. So
we're gonna be those guys on this trip.
Hey, I'm pretty jazzed that the hashtag on the back is Vegas, the final frontier.
Yeah, nobody's gonna think we're nerds at all. It's gonna be great.
No. So, So, again, CircleRock.com, promo code ZONE25 for that $25 gift card. All right. Trade tree from the 2010s. As we wrap up the decade, we're going over some infamous trade trees in wild history.
It's Tom Tryer's favorite segment.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been, I don't know, hopefully people have enjoyed these. These are... It's more of a trip down memory lane because we're wrapping up this decade here. It's been a decade. It's been 10 years for the Minnesota Wild. So we kind of wanted to go over, just kind of stroll down memory lane a little bit, jog your memory.
Yeah. What trade tree did you find last week? I know it's hard to follow the Brent Burns trade tree of succession.
Well, actually, I have something related to the Brent Burns trade tree. What was your trade tree last week?
I literally did Brent Burns trade at the draft for Charlie Coyle, Setaguchi, and the first-round pick, Zach Phillips.
Did you cover the second-round pick that went to San Jose along with Brent Burns?
I think so, because that ended up being... Jog my memory. Who was it?
Well, I have it right here. I haven't listened to the show from last week because I don't know if you've heard, but I've been kind of busy for the last week. But yeah, that pick, well, I guess that kind of ruins it then because I didn't know that was the trade you did last week.
Trying to look it up now.
So anyway, that deal Sharks get a second-round pick from the Wild, and Sharks deal that second-round pick and a 7th for Dominic Moore. Did you cover that?
No, I didn't get that far.
To the Bolts. Tampa Bay trades that with Sebastian Caron, a 2nd and a 3rd, for Anders Lindback, Kyle Wilson, and a 7th to Nashville. Nashville uses that second-round pick, the Minnesota Wild's second-round pick, in the Brett Burns deal to select Pontus Aberg.
I definitely did not get there last time.
Oh yeah, that good. I'm glad because that is a fun full circle moment for Wild fans.
Did you see Pontus Aberg? Like this was like 2 weeks ago. He got called up and he got put on a line with
Yes!
Austin Matthews.
and Nylander, right?
Yeah.
Matthews, Nylander, Pontus Aberg. Okay, that makes a ton of sense. My favorite part of that was the tweet from Russo. It just said, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, that is the proper reaction."
That is exactly the right reaction to that. Yeah. So there's your 2010s trade tree in review. Nice Pontus Aberg, which really did come full circle.
Mm-hmm.
So now over to our mailbag, which we did get a couple of mailbag questions to wrap up the show this week. Mm-hmm. Thank you to everyone who does submit questions to the mailbag. That means you listen, sort of.
Well, you at least follow us on Twitter.
Right.
And that's probably better than listening to the podcast.
Wild Fan for Life asks Dumba, ? Which we kind of expunged on that.
We did. I really wish I had a better answer. I threw out a couple of theories there. Players have down years, and that's just what happens.
It happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of life.
Lots of reasons for that.
Question from Jesse D. With the state of affairs in New Jersey, do you think the Wild should look at buying low on either Pavel Zacha or Jesper Bratt if they become available?
I don't know that the Wild are in any position to really be a firm buyer. And I think right now Guerin is still holding pat. He hasn't made any moves, and I think there was an article about that recently. I don't know. I don't want to see them... I don't want to see them go nuts buying. I don't know where you're at on that, but I feel like this season is, they're not a contending team. Like, let's be honest. As we talked about, there's still a whole lot of murky waters in that goaltending situation. I don't trust Alex Stalock to be as good for the rest of the year as he has been at home recently. I don't even know what to think of Devin Dubnyk anymore, to be completely honest. And Capo Kakinen is probably just, an innocent bystander stuck in Iowa, which, is, and who's to say that he was going to be the savior anyway? So I don't know. I don't want to see them really kind of empty the cupboards at all.
See, I agree. The Wild aren't in a position to buy, and it's more of, as I've said time and time again, this year, they're in a position where they have to start selling. Like, they have an abundance of forwards, and they're going to get their most prized forward next year in Kirill Kaprizov. So I don't necessarily see them buying, maybe not during the season, and I honestly don't know what's going on in New Jersey, and to be frank, I don't know enough about Pavel Zacha or Jesper Bratt a whole lot. Really, outside of Taylor Hall, there wasn't a whole lot that I really liked about New Jersey in my watchings of them. So I would have to take in more of them to kind of get a feel for that one. But
and your point, trading for more forwards doesn't make any more sense either.
Yeah. So it just, I don't know. The thing that I really think the Wild, if they need to trade for something at some point, will be goaltending.
Which is going to be really tough. Yeah.
Right. It's also going to be tough. So the next question from Jesse also asks, Taylor Hall to Arizona, how big of a bullet did the rest of the Central Division dodge with Hall not going to Colorado? Well, first of all, I guess I'm kind of shocked that Colorado didn't really try to match the offer that New Jersey got from Arizona, because I kind of felt that was a little bit of an undersell on their part. But, I mean, I'm glad Taylor Hall's not in Colorado. I will enjoy watching Taylor Hall in the Kachina jerseys.
Oh, yeah, indeed.
With Phil Kessel.
Indeed.
I just don't like Colorado, so I'm just glad. But I will feel bad for the team that just massively overpays for Taylor Hall in his post-peak years on free agency.
Yeah. He's going to get paid this summer.
Gonna pay him,
I think they dodged a bullet. I think that any time the Central is so tough, and it has been for a long time, that I just don't any iota, any minuscule amount of extra talent flowing into the Central is a bad thing for everybody in the Central, just because it is such a strong division, kind of from top to bottom. I mean, the Blackhawks are a little bit of a mess right now, but they can still beat anybody on any night. And you can see the Wild, obviously, are resurgent as well. So any time you can avoid a talented team getting more talented like the Avalanche, I think it's a good move.
Morpheus from the Matrix asks, do you see Parise realistically being moved? Should Greenway embrace the so-called tough guy role? Last but not least, when will the Bruce Gift library be available? Good God.
You're having troubles today.
First question, do you see Parise realistically being moved? I still think so. I think maybe if the Wild don't make the playoffs again this year and Parise stays healthy through the end of the year, he might still express an interest to get moved to a winner, and somebody might bite because he's still productive at 35 years old. But, it's the time-honored thing. You got to worry about the cap recapture penalty and all this.
Well, and not to mention, too,
what garbage are you going to get back?
Well, nothing. You're going to get absolutely, positively nothing back for him because that contract is so brutal. So it turns into a situation where you're having to attach value with Parise for somebody to take him. As good of a player as he still is, and like you said, still very productive into his mid-30s, and we love Zach Parise, and there's no doubt about that. But just given his contract, you will definitely have to attach a valuable asset to him in order to trade him, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
I wouldn't want to do that. And if he wants to leave, I mean, that's one thing, but finding a dance partner is a whole different story.
The second question on that about Greenway taking on the tough guy role, I don't necessarily like it from a fighting standpoint. I think Jordan Greenway has too much skill to be, sitting in the penalty box for 5 minutes at a time. From just being a net front presence, a physical force on the boards, yeah, absolutely. Take on that role. I want to see him do that. Use that frame to drive offense. That you can do that. Which was just a big frustration with Charlie Coyle before he left. But from the fighting aspect of the tough guy, I say no.
I'm not opposed to that. I don't think that it's going to happen much anyway because it's the NHL and they don't fight anymore, and that's
right.
So if he wants to get into 5 fights a year, whatever, I'm not upset about that. He can do that if he wants to. I mean, he certainly again has the build for it. But I'm with you 100%. I'd rather see him use his toughness and his size in front of the net. Park your big keister in front of the blue paint and just sit there and deflect pucks in like Mark Parrish or hack away at garbage goals like Zach Parise, somebody who's half your size, does on a regular basis. Use your frame where it's use it in the corners. Use it behind the net. If you want to fight a little bit, you want to be a fiery player, and I can have a little bit of respect for that, even though a lot of people loathe that like it's something
taboo,
like it's something unsaturated evil. But you can do a little bit of that. That's fine. But I would much rather see you use your size in offensively and even defensively productive ways.
Yeah. And the last question on the Bruce Boudreau gift library.
It's all you.
I still have to get started, which I apologize.
Is there a way that you can? I mean, not like an article, but can you actually make a gift library? Is that?
I still have to start like looking at the preliminary stuff. Like I got to be honest, like I just left my other job last week, as you know.
Sure.
So I do have more free time now after day job. So that
you want
will
to try
be
model cars.
That will be something over the next month or so. I will start actually looking at
Nice.
and having more free time to actually watch Wild Games will also help me expand on the Bruce gift library. But yeah, it hasn't gotten off the ground yet, but it is still high atop my to-do list, because I know that is something everybody had an interest in. So I do want to get the ball rolling on that. So
I think whatever you do, the final GIF has to be the I'm done, I'm effing done.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how you sequence anything else.
I mean, any kind of Bruce highlight video, that should just be how it ends. I'm fucking done.
I would agree.
So, yeah. So I will start working on that, I promise. It's just, it's been a little crazy. So,
Hear ya.
yeah. So that, we can call it a show.
That's all the questions we got?
Yeah.
Really? We get a single question about food. That's disappointing.
We'll come back next week with a food take. Maybe some Christmas food items.
Well,
or
you know what
something.
next week is.
Festivus.
It is. December 23rd. We're
Memories.
we are very likely recording on Festivus next week. I think that we should probably shoot for that. Or
Yeah, we'll figure it
even
out.
if we do it the day before, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But
It'll still be the Festivus show.
right, absolutely. So there will be some grievances aired next week.
Bring your grievances, folks. And actually, here, if you want to air some grievances, it can be about us, it can be about the Minnesota Wild,
Yeah,
it can be about anything.
yeah. We'll throw
Tweet it at us.
yeah, we'll throw up a Twitter
Put it on
question
our
for
Facebook.
that, and we will air the grievances.
We want to
next
hear your
week.
grievances. You got a week to figure it out.
Right.
We know you got grievances.
Make 'em good.
So, yeah, that'll do it for us. Follow Ben on Twitter at Ben Rivington. I am on Twitter at Giles Farrell. At GATG Wild Podcast is this podcast Twitter handle. Facebook.com/GATG Wild Podcast. Listen to this otherwise fine production on iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Spotify, and the like.
Grinder, Grizzle,
Uber. Oh my God! I didn't even bring up the Uber I had on Saturday.
Oh, Santa Claus.
Santa!
Yeah.
I got an Uber with an actual Santa, and it was the greatest Uber ever. You know what? I'll save that story for the start of the show next week because
good
nobody's
one.
listening by now.
That's
so
true.
I will note it to start the show next week with the Santa Uber story, which was amazing. So,
cool.
Yeah, zonecoverage.com is where the podcast is and all our written content is. Check that out. If you are so inclined to get that last-minute subscription to zonecoverage.com for somebody this holiday season, use the promo code GATG20, save you $5. Or also check out our sponsors, CircleRock.com, for some last-minute gift ideas. Or if you need some marketing ideas, just ask friend Brian Reynolds, who is very, very good with words.
Yes.
Let me assure you, at brian@nsmarketing.net for your marketing needs. So that will wrap it up for us, and we will chat with you again next week.
Later.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Gill and the Goaltender podcast.
That's not resiliency. You're making it sound like we're good. That's all. I'm done.